A very good morning, students. So, after the importance of planning that we have studied yesterday, so let's start with the limitations of planning. See, everything in this world have the both pros and cons, isn't it? So, this planning, whatever we have studied about the good things about it, the planning, so there are also a darker side of the planning which is known as the limitations. Okay, so this planning, though, see, so the planning is totally dependent upon the future. That means the present is dependent upon the future. So what we think about the future, we are just putting it into our mind in the present. So every time it's not possible that uh, we can just know about the correct or the accurate future, isn't it? We may be wrong, our plan, so if we are wrong, our objectives may be wrong. Our objectives, if it is goes wrong, then definitely the plan will be also unsuccessful, and with the unsuccessful planning, hence the goal cannot be achieved properly, isn't it? So these unforeseen events and the changes, for example the natural calamities or change in fashion or rise in cost and prices, etc., etc., environment changes. Suppose we have just thought of that, suppose a person xyz have thought that in the month of July he will invest a huge amount of money in the bank, okay, as a FD, fixed deposit, so that he can earn a good amount of interest out of that. But see what happened, he is planning, maybe for this month of March or the February will go in vain in the month of April only, because due to this our lockdown and this coronavirus pandemic. So what happened, the government has lowered down the savings account interest or the FD interest, isn't it? So these are some of the calamities. Or maybe one garment company is producing a style of clothes, okay, so that has been influenced by a film, a new released film. But after a certain period of time, suppose after 3 4 months, another film has been released, and certainly that style of fashion is going on and on. So the customers are liking that, this over that. So at that time what will happen, there will be a change in fashion, there will be a change in taste and preferences of the customers. So the company may face the loss, isn't it? So if there are no proper planning, or some of the legal regulations or the interventions that may affect the business plan. So plan always need to be a flexible, so that they can be modified within a certain period of time with the certain dynamic environment. Okay, so let's start with some of the major limitations of planning. So point number one is your planning leads to rigidity. That means what? Rigidity means which cannot be changed, or which is very strong. Okay, so plan, sometimes it is a well defined plan for an organization is something that always creates with a sentence or with a specific document, okay. And sometimes the plan may become rigid as with the change in the your environment. And these plans, they may not meet the, sorry, and these plans, they may not uh, meet the position of the uh, position of the goals that to be achieved. So the managers or the top level MDs and all, top level management, they always creates a plan, isn't it? And so the lower level managers or the middle level managers, they should be given a proper flexibility, so that they can change the plan as per the changes comes into their business. And this following up pre-decided plans needs to be changed during the organizational needs. Okay, so let's come up with a planning may work in a dynamic manner, dynamic environment. So in this point, the business environment, though it is a dynamic, there is nothing very constant. So the environment changes every now and then, as we know that our economical or the political or the natural, physical, legal, etc. These are the various macro level environment which keeps on changing, and the business is totally uncontrollable with these changes. So to cope up with the changes or to adapt the changes, it becomes very difficult for the business to know about the accurate future trends, and hence with this competition in the market, they exactly cannot able to cope up with the dynamic environment. Because see, the planning or the manager or the planner cannot actually foresee the environment, the future, that what is actually going to happen. There may be a mismatch also, isn't it? So it becomes an obstacle for a effective planning. Clear? Now comes here, planning reduces creativity. So generally planning is being done by the topmost level of the management, isn't it? So they only goes with the creativity, they only goes with the innovation, experimentation, trial and error, etc, etc. But whatever they does for the welfare of the organization. They are not wrong in their places, but it reduces or it lowers the creativity and innovativeness or the intellectuality of the managers of the lower level or the middle level or the lower level, because they are neither given the chance to make the decisions of their own, or nor they are allowed to change the plans as per their requirements. So it reduces the creativity of the other people, other employee who are working in that organization. Only some of the bureaucrats of that organization or the brainstorming will come and properly plan for the future of the organization. I know it's not a wrong thing in the part of them, but still it reduces the creativity as a whole for the employees, because they are just like the parrot learner. Whatever they are getting to do, they will do like these things, and hence most of the time the employees do not even attempt to formulate the plan. Okay, thus planning reduces the creativity. Clear? Now see the point number 4. Planning involves huge cost. See this, while going with a drawing a proper planning, so it requires a huge loss or huge costs as in terms of your time, because planning requires much time than your money. Why money? Because the proper experimentation or preparing up of the budget, or going for a market survey whether the launch of a new product will be liked by the customers or not, will be well accepted by the employees or not, etc, etc. So these are the costs that are being that involves in the planning. And moreover, the checking of the accuracy from time to time, that whether the planning is going on properly or not, the direction is going properly or not. So this required a huge cost. And moreover, some of the organization, they also hire the planners, okay, the thinkers, so that they can properly consult with them and give a proper consultation. Okay, so they have to be given some of the fees, the some of the consultation fees, and this is also incurred by the organization, which increases indirectly in the production cost. Okay, and some of the expenses like your board room meetings, that means for a meeting they have to decorate the room properly, they have to give some of the refreshments, the professional experts need to be given some of the petty cash for the preliminary investigation to find a valid plan and all. Okay, so planning is time consuming, as we all know that it requires some much time in finding up of a best plan. So it is a time consuming planning. And the next point is planning does not guarantee success. That means what? While to get the proper success, if the plan does not go exactly what they want to get their achievement, the plan will not guarantee the success, because the plan uh, any plan needs to be implemented in such a way that it, from a blueprint, it should be translated into the course of action, and ultimately the result will show up that the whether the plan is being successful or not. And every time planning does not guarantee success, because due to some of the changes that cause during the period of time while in the operation, isn't it? So planning always does not guarantee success. But with all the importance or the limitations whatever we have studied with the planning, it can be considered that, however, the planning is not a useful exercise. Rather, all other forces which make a plan successful one or a stronger one should be given due importance, so that the planning should not go in vain. And moreover, the company should always try to make the plan the optimum utilization, so that they don't go for the extravagant costs, isn't it? So, and the planning should be made in such a caution manner, such a cautious manner, that it can give us with a proper solution and a proper or not even 100% accuracy, but to a cent per percent accuracy, so that the organization can meet up the achievement of the goal. Okay, now let's come up with a planning process. So this planning, whatever we have learned, it has certain logical steps for every steps, and the managers have to follow up the steps properly in order to get a proper planning. So the first point is setting up of the objectives. So this is the first point, first and the foremost step in setting up of the objectives every organization that have to follow. Okay, so first of all, while going up with the plan, first thing comes into our mind that for what we are planning. That means there should be, for what means the objective should be there for each and every organization, for the entire organization, and for the each department within the organization. That means, see, for a whole organization there is one main goal or the main objective, and the each and every department, the smaller unit of the organization, they have their own individual objectives. Okay, suppose the increase in, one examples has been given here, it could mean that an increase in sale by 20% could objective of the entire organization. However, the small unit of the organization, it will give a employee a motivation that to work, suppose 15 minutes more than their usual time, or maybe doing a work in the computer rather than writing in hand. So these are the small plans for the small departments or for the small units. Okay, so the departments or the units, they need to set up their own objectives, so that it can just put it into a big objectives of the whole organization. Okay, so let's come up to the next point, known as your And yeah, one thing it should be kept in mind that the objective whenever are going to be set for the organization, the objective should be properly set. It should be clear to the every employees in the organization. It should be reliable, and it should be the logical one, so that it is not that complex that one can hear anything, understand another thing, and does the another thing. Okay, now let's come up to the point number 2, the developing premises. So premises, as we know, that is something, your extra places, isn't it? The building premises, as we have studied in accountancy and all, the building premises or the place, okay, the field, the production area, what the operation area. Okay, so it is known as your premises. But in this particular planning process, the premises means your assumption. Okay, so some while going through with the planning, there are certain assumptions or the future assumption that the every planner need to go through. Okay, while planning, we always go on assuming something, that these things will happen, these things may not happen, that so this tomorrow there may be a band or may not be a band. So if there is a band, I will not go out of the house, or if there is semi band, I may go to meet my friend nearby. So these are the assumption that we go on doing, isn't it? So this developing premises also like that, while planning up for the future, as it is an uncertain one, so every planner, they just go on a certainty, no, sorry. So the every planner, they search of a certainty in the uncertain environment, that these or that might happen, and these or that might be under the control of the management. Okay, so with this knowledge, they go on with the planning process. And this assumption about the future, that what will happen, and this thing will work well, that thing may not work well, or with the past information and the past experience, the premises can be set up or developed. Okay, so with this proper premises, or now see, this premises we have learned it. Okay, now how does these premises come? These premises come from the various experimentation, or the future, or sorry, or the past information, or knowing about its market, or knowing about its competitors, or the various organizational policies, the change of the policies, or the prices of the goods that may change or not. So these are the information that is helpful for a planner to develop the premises. Okay, suppose nowadays during this lockdown, a planner of a business house may think that may can develop that premises with the information that now in the future days, due to the restriction of the celebration of the various festivals, the people may not purchase few things more. Okay, they will just purchase the things that are needed in the day-to-day lives, and they will not purchase in a huge bulk. So it will be useless if they produce more and more. Clear? Now see the third point here, identifying alternative course of action. Now after developing the whole premises, now comes here the knowing up of the various other plans that they have just collected. Okay, so the next step will be, after developing premises, what will be the various plan A, plan B, plan C, plan D, plan E, plan F, everything that comes up into your mind, you have to put it together. Okay, which project is important, and sorry, which plan is important and which plan is suiting or matching the project or the objective. You should bring everything together, and then we are just evaluating the alternative course of action. The next point says that the next step is just weighing, that means just matching up the pros and cons of the each and every alternative that this is having, just calculating the merits and demerits of the various alternative, and this can be done with the various technologies or with the various calculations, preparing of the various budgets, or maybe you're going through the various statistical datas and all. So after that, or maybe some of the accounting ratios, that which plan will yield more profit, getting the earnings per share, or the dividends, the taxes, which is more risky one, which is less costly, etc, etc. So everything they will go on calculating and matching the pros and cons. Okay, now see, this weighing here is very important. All the positive and the negative aspect of the proposal, or the proposal of the whole plan is very important in this point. Okay, so, and accuracy lies here. Okay, the planner needs to be very crucial and judgmental with the proper knowledge of the planning and the whole objective of the organization, so that they can move up the plan very smoothly. And and with this the next step is you're selecting an alternative. So after this, the next step comes here, selecting an alternative. That means out of the whole plans that has been implemented, that means out of the whole plan that they have just evaluated with the pros and cons, now is the exact time or the very time where the planner has to make a decision. That time, didn't I said you that the planning is helps in decision making, in importance of planning, or in the and in the futures of planning, isn't it? So we got a point that planning helps in decision making. Now see the very first point, the very first line of this point is, this is the real point of decision making. That means of the whole alternatives after the evaluation, now is the best time to adopt a plan that is exactly suitable for the project, and just implement it throughout the whole plan. Okay, throughout the whole working of the working towards the achievement of the goal. Now see, this plan should be most feasible, most profitable, and should have the very less or the negligible amount of the negative consequences. Okay, so most plans, they are not always like your mathematically correct or your accountability correct, but some of the plans, they are to be accepted with the help of the judgment, experience, innovation of the manager. So sometimes our intuition also play a definite role, that I think so this thing may good happen, this thing may go well. So with this proper combination of all the experience, judgment, or the intuition, the intellectual capacity, then the manager will give a proper plan that to be implemented towards the working. Now see, the next point, the sixth one, is implementation of the plan. That means now is the very right time to get your plan into our work. Okay, this step only you will get to know that whether it is working or not, how it is working. Now the next point is follow-up action. That means here the plan is successful or not, a continuous monitoring should be there. Okay, that means follow up means your action. Follow up action means your just a, what to say, the controlling. Okay, whether it is going right or not, it is that only. Thank you.